Why are networks so important when pairing entrepreneurs with investors?
Networks have long been a topic of academic research, but there's been less emphasis on the dynamics of networks or how someone builds a network. And so that's one thing I love about entrepreneurs is they are out building their networks. And indirectly, what that's allowing them to do is then create new opportunities for themselves. So what the network is important for is they act as information pipes. And what that means is the network, when you're seeking investments, your initial network helps effectively signal to an investor, this is someone worth paying attention to, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. And so investors have this question of who do they want to focus on? They can only meet with so many. And not only do they have questions about is the business promising, but they have a lot of questions about character. And so to the extent that they know someone in common, or even better, personally interacted with the entrepreneur, but more often it's that they know someone in common, that addresses a lot of those concerns. That said, when you actually look at what these networks look like, some of them are very long-lasting networks. These people have worked together at a prior company for 10 years. They've known each other socially for 20 years, maybe they're undergraduates together, but oftentimes they're more recently developed networks. That these are entrepreneurs who got to know these mentors as they were building the business, as they were considering the early stages of entrepreneurship, and these mentors have then helped introduce them. And so on one hand, it validates the importance of networks and that classic saying, it's all about who you know. On the other hand, what that also indicates is that you can get to know the right people who can help you out. That it's not just about this sort of social caste system, if you will, where you're in a social position and that's largely going to constrain your opportunities. If I'm looking to talk to an investor 3 days from now, getting the introduction to that investor and have a meeting with that investor is probably going to depend on someone I've known already. On the other hand, if I'm looking to meet with an investor 4 months from now, 3 months from now, that may happen through someone I'm just getting to know. Another entrepreneur, maybe a more experienced entrepreneur takes an interest in the business and may pass along that introduction. And so, yes, one way is you can leverage these old classic networks. But oftentimes it's the more recent networks. And so you really aren't that constrained as an entrepreneur. Yes, it takes time to build those relationships and you do have to invest in them and you have to build the trust, but they very much can be developed. And in fact, one interesting thing is if you look at the importance of networks that entrepreneurs bring with them from the past and how much that influences who they choose to raise from, the impact of that actually diminishes as the venture gets older. That becomes much more about the accomplishments of the venture and the new networks that they're developing through that. The old ones can still be very, very valuable, but it's not quite as important.